Ever felt like you were never good enough? What if the people who overlooked you had to come crawling back? 3 years ago, my parents handed everything over to my brother Ryan. The family business, our home, even their investments. Everything. He deserves it, they said. But I'd been there my whole life. I worked in the family business for 15 years while Ryan partied and made bad choices. When I found out that I was getting nothing, my father's words echoed in my mind. Your brother deserves it. I couldn't understand how they could just give him everything after everything he'd done. Nothing. I had built this company with my own hands, poured my blood, sweat, and tears into it. And yet Ryan, who had done nothing to earn it, was handed the keys to the kingdom. It was infuriating. I felt invisible, discarded, like I had spent my whole life chasing something that would never be mine. But I wasn't going to let it go like that. I knew the family's legacy didn't belong to Ryan. It belonged to me. For years, I'd stayed quiet, watching him fail while I kept pushing forward. And now, the irony hit me. After he destroyed everything, the same people who told me he deserves it were asking me for help. And I was done being the one who was overlooked. I wasn't going to be the afterthought anymore. It was time to take control on my terms. 3 years ago, my parents handed everything over to Ryan. The family home, the business, the investments. I was left with nothing. He deserves it, they said. But I had worked my whole life for that family business. I gave everything. Sleepless nights, sacrifice, hard work, while Ryan partied, made bad decisions, and barely showed up. Growing up, it was always the same. I worked to be the best, but Ryan was always the golden child. Every achievement I had felt invisible compared to his mistakes. He got the praise, the attention, the inheritance. I got nothing. It wasn't fair. My dad would say, "Your brother deserves it," as if all my years of hard work didn't matter. That was when I realized I was invisible to them. The business, the legacy, it didn't matter to anyone but me. At first, I swallowed the bitterness. I accepted the role of the invisible worker, always in the background, never recognized. But that moment, when my parents gave Ryan everything, shattered something inside me. I wasn't going to let it go on forever. I wasn't going to let them treat me like I didn't matter. So when they called, asking for my help, I realized this wasn't about the business anymore. It was about proving to them and to myself that I had what it takes. The phone call came out of nowhere. My mom texted, "The mortgage is due. We need to talk." I froze. After years of being pushed aside, why were they reaching out now? Ryan had ruined everything and they needed me. But this wasn't just about saving the business. It was my chance for payback. I was done being the afterthought. I had spent too long working for approval that would never come. My parents, my family, they had all chosen Ryan over me. But now? The tables were turning. I wasn't going to go back to the role of the invisible worker. I wasn't going to walk back into Patterson Construction and accept whatever they handed me. This time, I was in control. I agreed to meet with them, but this time I wasn't showing up as the overlooked daughter. I was coming back as the woman who had built herself from nothing, who had earned every ounce of respect she had. I wasn't just walking into that office to fix things. I was walking in to take what was mine. When I arrived at the company, it was like walking into a ghost town. Ryan had run it into the ground. The cracks were everywhere, but I wasn't scared. I was ready to fix this, on my terms. As I stepped back into the family business, I could feel the weight of everything that had gone wrong. The company I had worked so hard for was now just a shadow of its former self. The cracks Ryan had created were everywhere. Yet, despite it all, I didn't feel fear. I felt power. I took a deep breath and walked straight into the conference room. Ryan wasn't there. Typical. But my parents were. They were waiting for me to save the business they had handed over to him, the business that had crumbled under his watch. I looked at them, expecting an apology but finding only desperation. They told me how bad things were, how Ryan had failed them, how they couldn't fix this without me. And for the first time, I realized something. This wasn't just about saving the company anymore. It was about taking back what was mine, what I had worked for. Ryan had his chance, and he blew it. Now, it was my turn to take the reins. But this time, I wasn't going to be their second choice. I wasn't going to be the one they settled for. I was going to be the one who fixed everything. I'm not here to clean up your mess, I told them. I'm here to take control. And in that moment, I made my decision. I would rebuild this company, but only on my terms. The next few weeks were a blur of late nights and endless paperwork. When I took control, I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I didn't realize just how deep the damage went. The company was on the brink of collapse, and Ryan's reckless decisions had left us with nothing but a trail of broken contracts, unpaid bills, and lost clients. I had a choice to make: give up or dig in my heels. I chose the latter. I started by cutting the fat, eliminating unnecessary expenses, and renegotiating contracts with our suppliers. The team I inherited wasn't much better than the mess we were already in, but I wasn't going to be afraid to make tough decisions. Ryan? He was still lurking around the office, trying to interfere with every move I made. But I didn't care. He had failed, and this time he wasn't going to sabotage my efforts. I made it clear to everyone: the ship was sinking, and I was the one holding the lifeboat. As I started making the changes, I could feel a shift in the energy. People who had been with the company for years were starting to rally behind me. They could see I wasn't just talking. I was acting, and that gave them hope. It felt like we were all coming together to rebuild something that mattered. And for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't just fixing a company. I was fixing myself. Despite the progress I was making, Ryan's presence lingered like a shadow. He didn't respect me, didn't trust my decisions, and worst of all, he didn't seem to care that the company was falling apart under his leadership. He still thought he had a say in how things were run, but I wasn't backing down. Every day, I fought to rebuild Patterson Construction. I made calls, negotiated contracts, and started repairing relationships with clients. But every time I turned around, there he was, hovering, undermining my authority. He'd make backdoor deals with suppliers, offer opinions on projects I was handling, even try to take credit for decisions I'd made. It was infuriating. But it wasn't just about the company anymore. It was personal. Ryan had always been the golden boy, and I was the one left in the shadows. But now I had control, and I wasn't letting him take that from me. One day, after another failed attempt to derail my work, I sat him down. "You had your chance," I told him, "but you blew it. I'm running this company now, and you're either with me or against me. I won't let you tear this down again." The look in his eyes, rage mixed with disbelief, told me everything I needed to know. But I wasn't afraid. It was my turn. And I would make sure Patterson Construction not only survived, but thrived. The first few months were brutal, but I could see the changes starting to take shape. Clients were returning, the team was beginning to trust me, and the foundation of Patterson Construction was slowly but surely being rebuilt. But even as I pushed forward, Ryan's failure continued to haunt me. His name was still on everything, and the damage he'd caused couldn't be erased overnight. Still, I refused to let the weight of his mistakes drag me down. I focused on rebuilding relationships, fixing the financial mess he'd created, and pushing the company forward. For the first time, I wasn't just picking up the pieces. I was making things better. I was finally leading on my own terms. Ryan? He had slipped into the background, sulking in his corner office, no longer holding any real power. But his attempts to undermine me hadn't stopped. He tried to make moves behind my back, spreading rumors to the staff and making subtle jabs during meetings. But each time, I just kept pushing forward, never letting him derail me. One morning, I overheard a conversation between two employees. "Megan's different," one of them said. "She's doing what Ryan couldn't." That was the moment I knew I had truly turned the corner. People were seeing me for who I was. Not the overlooked daughter, but the woman in charge. Ryan had lost the company. And now I was taking it back for myself. As the months passed, things began to look up. The company was stabilizing, but I knew that if I didn't make a bold move, we'd always be playing catch-up. Patterson Construction needed a fresh direction, and I was ready to give it one. I proposed a new venture: sustainable building. The world was changing, and so were the demands in construction. If we were going to stay competitive, we had to adapt. But I didn't expect my parents to back me so easily. They were hesitant, unsure if it was the right time. But I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I presented the idea with a solid plan: tax incentives, market potential, new client opportunities. This wasn't just a new venture, it was the future of Patterson Construction. I wasn't going to let them hold me back anymore. I needed their support, but I wasn't depending on it. To my surprise, they agreed. With that support, we launched the division, and the results were beyond anything I could have hoped for. We secured new contracts, the projects were profitable, and for the first time in years, we were respected in the industry again. The company's reputation began to rebuild, and with it, my confidence. Ryan? He never fully embraced the idea. But that didn't matter anymore. I had proven what I was capable of. And now, the company, and my future, was truly mine. Months passed, and the company's transformation was undeniable. Patterson Construction was thriving again, and the sustainable division was becoming a significant player in the industry. But amidst all the success, I realized that the biggest change hadn't been in the company. It had been in me. I spent years trying to prove myself to my family, my father, my brother. I thought that if I could just fix the business, get the recognition I deserved, everything would fall into place. But what I hadn't realized was that the approval I craved wasn't the answer. The only approval I needed was my own. The moment I understood this, it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't just rebuilding a business. I was rebuilding myself. No longer would I define my worth by the expectations of others. I had built this from the ground up, not just the company, but my confidence, my strength, my resilience. Ryan never fully understood. He still resented me, still tried to undermine my authority whenever he could. But it didn't matter anymore. I didn't need his approval. I didn't need anyone's. I had become the leader I always knew I was. Patterson Construction was no longer just a family business. It was my legacy. And I had finally learned the most important lesson. I am enough just as I am. It's been a year since I took control of Patterson Construction, and the change is nothing short of incredible. The company is thriving. Our reputation is solid once again, and more importantly, I've rebuilt my life, both professionally and personally. I'm not just the woman who saved the family business. I'm the woman who took control and built something even greater. The weight of the past is still there, but it no longer holds me back. I don't carry the burden of trying to prove my worth anymore. I know exactly who I am now, and that's enough. I didn't need my family's approval to succeed. I didn't need Ryan's acknowledgement to find my place. What I've built isn't just a business. It's my legacy. It's a legacy of resilience, determination, and the refusal to be overlooked anymore. Patterson Construction is now more than just a company. It's a testament to everything I fought for and to the strength I discovered within myself. Ryan, of course, still lingers in the background, resentful and bitter. But that doesn't matter. He may have been the golden boy, but now I'm the one who runs this company. And in the end, that's the only victory that matters. I've learned one thing through all of this. No one can define your worth except you. And I'm finally living life on my terms. No apologies, no regrets. Looking back on everything, I realize just how much I've changed. The woman who walked into Patterson Construction a year ago, determined to prove herself, is a far cry from the woman I am now. The anger, the frustration, the desperation to be seen. They've all faded away. In their place is a quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing you've earned everything you've achieved. The hardest lesson I had to learn was that self-worth doesn't come from outside validation. It comes from within. For years, I sought approval from my parents, my brother, from everyone around me. But when I stopped waiting for them to see me, that's when everything clicked. I didn't need anyone else's approval. I was already enough. Now, as I look at the company I've rebuilt, I see something more than just a business. I see my legacy. I see proof that I can stand on my own, make tough decisions, and lead with integrity. Patterson Construction isn't just the story of a company coming back from the brink. It's the story of a woman finding her voice. And what's next for me? I don't know exactly, but I'm not afraid anymore. I know I'm capable of anything I set my mind to. My journey isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. The only thing I know for sure is this: I will keep moving forward on my own terms. As I stand here today, looking at everything I've built and the person I've become, I realize that the greatest victory wasn't in rebuilding Patterson Construction. It was in rebuilding myself. I've learned that life isn't about seeking validation from others, especially from those who don't see your worth. It's about knowing who you are, standing tall, and never compromising on your values. The journey wasn't easy. There were moments when I felt like giving up, when the weight of my family's expectations seemed too heavy to bear. But through it all, I found my strength. I found my voice. And I found out that I am more than enough, just as I am. Ryan may have inherited everything, but I inherited something far more valuable: the power to create my own destiny. And now, I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. I've learned that sometimes the hardest challenges lead to the most rewarding victories. And in the end, it's the challenges that shape us into who we are meant to be. So here's the takeaway from everything I've been through. Don't let anyone define your worth. You are the only one who can do that. Keep pushing forward, even when it feels like the world is against you. Keep fighting for what you deserve, because you are enough. If you've learned something from my journey, hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to my channel for more lessons, stories, and inspiration. Keep believing in yourself. The best is yet to come.